Welcome to Rebel Chaser. My name is Gail, and I have a video for you from Judge Kirkham in Michigan. He is hearing a contempt charge. This is a contempt hearing in which mom has decided to not let the father see his kids at all. Completely not allowed. And you'll see a lot of things that are going on here. She has turned the little ones against him, and you'll see that in this hearing. You'll see all of it. So I will just let you guys watch.
It is Thursday, July 18, 2024 at 8:44 a.m. Court case number 2021-776 p.m. Chelsea Jazwiak versus Brian Jazwiak, attorneys Jennifer Reed for the plaintiff and Attorney Henderson for the defendant.
Good morning to everyone, and sorry for the delay, but I just received Al Haugen's reports about 25 minutes ago, so I was having to read those, and I wanted to read those before we started.
Yeah, we apologize. We just got them after hours last night as well. So.
Well, I wish I would have got them after hours last night. I could have read them first thing this morning when I came in.
I forwarded them to Christy right away, but
yeah,
obviously she's not working after hours either.
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you. Court will note that this matter is before the court on the defendant's motion to hold plaintiff in contempt and for immediate resumption of parenting time. Ms. Henderson, are you ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Reed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Henderson, do you wish to make an opening statement or proceed to proofs?
Your Honor, I would reserve and proceed to proofs in the judicial economy interest.
Okay. Ms. Reed, do you wish to make an opening statement or reserve your opening statement or waive your opening statement?
I would reserve.
You would what?
Reserve my opening.
Okay. Okay, Ms. Henderson, you can proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. We have Carla Titus in the waiting room.
She's coming in.
Thank you.
Ms. Titus, good morning.
Morning, sir.
We're going to take some testimony from you, so I'll need you to have you raise your right hand, be sworn in, and then we'll proceed.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you are about to give shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Go ahead, Ms. Henderson, when you're ready.
Thank you. Ms. Titus, could you please state your full name and spell your last name for the record?
It is Carla Titus, Titus.
Thank you. And where are you currently employed and in what position?
I work for the state of Michigan at Calhoun County DHHS, and I am a CPS investigator.
Are you familiar with the Jazwiak family?
I am.
And how did you become familiar with that family?
I had an investigation in September of 2023.
And what were the allegations in that investigation, if you recall?
The technical allegations through CPS were placing a child at unreasonable risk.
And who was the alleged perpetrator?
Ryan.
Could you please state to the court what kind of investigation you performed and whether those allegations were substantiated?
Yes, I interviewed both children, spoke with school personnel and both parents.
And were any of the allegations substantiated?
They were not.
Could you please state to the court, if you remember specifically, what kind of allegations were they?
Part of the concern was that Ryan works third shift. He had gotten very little sleep, gone to, I guess, a cookout at somewhere around St. Mary's Lake or something, and had drinks and driven with the children in the car. And then there were additional allegations that Ryan's girlfriend had shoved or slapped one of the children in the head, like to get their attention, and that their son had been shaken at some point by Ryan because he wasn't willing to watch the movie that they had selected for family night.
And in the course of your investigation, were any of those three detailed allegations corroborated?
No,
Did you have any concerns about Ryan during your investigation?
I did not.
Was he cooperative?
He was.
Okay. Anything that struck you as needing improvement in his household?
No,
Okay. And what about Miss Joswiak? Was she cooperative?
she was.
Anything about communication with her that you noticed?
No,
Okay.
I don't know what just happened there.
I'm sorry.
Oh, something just popped up on my screen, so I can't get rid of it.
And were your communications directly with each of the parties or with their significant others as well?
I spoke to both of their significant others.
Okay. Any services that you recommended to the family at that time?
No,
Okay. And any other observations that you made that made you concerned about either household?
no,
So the investigation essentially was closed without the preponderance of the evidence.
correct.
Okay. Anything else you want to add as it relates to that incident?
No, that's all.
Thank you. I don't have any further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ms. Reed, any cross-examination?
Briefly. Good morning, Ms. Titus. Can you hear me?
I can.
Did you visit each of the parents' homes in your investigation?
I did not visit mom's. I spoke with her by phone, just due to work times, schedules.
Regarding the incidents and allegations of physical issues regarding the slap to the back of a head and shaking, were there any marks that were observed?
When I saw both children, they had no marks or bruises.
Do you recall the time period between the time the incident happened and your investigation?
It would have been without pulling up the specific report, I believe we have, I'm trying to think if I saw him right away. It would have been within 48 hours.
And how did you check to see if there were marks on either child? Did you ask or did they undergo a physical exam?
I looked at both children. I know the son reported he didn't have any marks. And he's the only one that had, it was reported he was shaken, but there were no reported physical bruises to be observed.
Okay, was the forensic interview protocol followed?
It was.
Okay, I have no further questions.
Okay. Ms. Henderson, any additional redirect?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Titus.
Ms. Titus, thank you for your testimony. You're free to go. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Next witness, Ms. Henderson.
Travis Gleason, please.
What's the last name, Ms. Henderson?
Gleason,
Please.
Gleason.
Okay. Mr. Gleason, we're going to take some testimony from you. So if you would raise your right hand, we'll have you sworn in, then we'll proceed.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you are about to give shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Henderson.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Gleason. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, I can hear you.
Could you please state your full name and spell your last name for the record?
Travis Gleason, and last name is Gleason.
Thank you. Where are you currently employed and in what position?
I'm employed through the Department of Health and Human Services in Calhoun County. I'm a CPS investigator.
Are you familiar through the course of your employment with the family by the name of Joswiak?
I am.
And how did you become familiar with that family?
I had an investigation with the family in November of 2023.
Okay. And do you recall what the allegations were and who was the alleged perpetrator?
The alleged perpetrator was Ryan. Allegations were in regard to non-accidental physical injury of Ryder.
Do you recall any specifics about those allegations?
That he was allegedly pulled up by his shirt collar by Ryan, leaving injuries to his neck.
Right. Thank you. And what kind of investigation did you perform, and within what type of time frame after the allegations were received?
I conducted an investigation into those allegations. Generally, when we receive allegations of physical injury, we want to do home assessments. We're doing criminal background checks. We're doing forensic interviews of alleged victims.
Were all of those performed during your investigation this time?
Yes.
And how quickly did you begin your investigation?
I believe I received investigation on the 16th, and I believe I also interviewed Ryder on the 16th of November of 23.
So almost immediately.
Correct.
Thank you. Were any of the allegations substantiated throughout your investigation?
They were not.
Was Mr. Jazwiak cooperative with your investigation?
He was.
Did you in fact also order both children to be medically examined?
I don't know about order, but that was the recommendation.
I'm sorry, recommended.
I did recommend. Actually, I only recommended Ryder, I believe. But Mr. Jazwiak did take both children.
And did the medical exam reveal any signs of physical abuse in either of the children?
There were no concerning findings.
Okay. Did Ms. Jazwiak cooperate with your investigation?
She did.
Did you have any concerns about Ryan at the time of your investigation?
I did not.
Okay. Any specific observations that you've made during your investigation relevant to this family?
Not that I can recall. No.
Okay. And were any services recommended at the time of your investigation besides the medical exam?
I know that minor children were reported to be attending individual therapy. I did suggest that continues, but I did not explicitly recommend any services.
Okay. Anything else you would like to add to your testimony today regarding that investigation?
I have nothing further.
Did at any point, did you mention to Mr. Jazwiak that it appears to be a custody dispute?
It did appear to be a custody dispute, and that seemed apparent following medical exams without any findings concerning for abuse or neglect.
In your investigation, did you also review previous investigation conducted just a month and a half or 2 months earlier by Carla Titus?
Briefly.
Okay. And did you speak with her about your investigation as well?
I had actually received, I don't remember the exact date, but Carla Titus did reach out to me at one point. She had informed me that she had received a call from Miss Jazwiak's living together partner. And I believe she forwarded my contact information or provided my contact information, but I never heard anything further.
Okay. Thank you. I don't have any further questions here.
Ms. Reed, any thought?
Yes. Mr. Gleason, during your investigation, were any safety plans implemented?
Yep, we implemented safety plans in both parents' households.
And what was the contents of those plans?
Need for a sober caregiver at all times. For Ryan Jazwiak specifically, we discussed well child exams, need for a well child exams that he did complete within the time frame we asked him to complete. I would have to refresh my recollection for more specifics. No retaliation is generally one that I'm including in these type of investigations.
Were there any recommendations for Chelsea during the safety plan?
So I know with Chelsea, I recall discussing that if you have a concern for physical injury, then your first step should be to have that injury evaluated by a medical professional to see if that is concerning for abuse or neglect or
not. Okay. During the pendency of your investigation, were you made aware of any ongoing litigation in the family law matter?
I don't recall specifically. Litigation entailing what exactly?
Anything, or was anything pending in the circuit court?
That I was explicitly aware of that I recall. I know they were separated and they were going through what I understood to be a dispute on custody of the minor children.
What leads you to believe that there was a dispute regarding custody of the minor children?
I mean, that's what was reported to me, is that they could not come to a consensus on certain aspects of parenting time, visitation, things like that.
The children visiting Ryan during the time of your investigation?
Believe so.
And was there an order in place for parenting time?
That I do not specifically recall.
Do you know who reported that it was a custody dispute going on at the time?
I believe that both parents had reported that there's been some issues regarding parenting time and custody and past
Was that present or past?
past altercations between parents, that they did not exactly get along well, is what was reported to me.
I have no further questions.
Ms. Henderson, anything
Just
else?
very briefly, thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Gleason, at any point during your investigation, did you recommend that visitation with Mr. Joswiak stop?
No.
And just to clarify, you did not substantiate your investigation was closed without the preponderance of the evidence, is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. I don't have any further questions,
Okay.
Your Honor.
Ms. Reed, anything else?
No, Your Honor.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Gleason, thank you for your testimony. You're free to go. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Next witness, Ms. Henderson.
Your Honor, do we have Miradessa Katz in the waiting room?
We don't.
Okay, 9 o'clock she was scheduled. Is it okay if I contact her briefly, Rick?
Yeah.
Thank you. She was scheduled at 9.
Good morning, Ms. Katz. How are you today?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
Good. We're going to take some testimony from you. So if you would raise your right hand, we'll have you sworn in, then we'll proceed.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you are about to give shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Ms. Henderson, when you're ready.
Thank you. Good morning, Ms. Katz. Could you please state your full name and spell your last name for the record?
Miradessa Katz, K-A-T-Z.
Thank you. Have you testified as an expert witness before in front of this court?
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. I think the court is fairly familiar. I believe Ms. Reed would stipulate to treating Ms. Katz as an expert witness in the area of psychology.
Okay, Ms. Reed, is that accurate?
That is accurate.
Okay. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. Ms. Katz, are you familiar with the Joswiak family?
Yes, I am.
And how and when did you become familiar with them?
I believe in February was the first time I met with Ryan.
I know you make long pauses, so I don't want to interrupt you. Were you finished with your sentence?
Yes.
Yes, okay, thank you. And how did you meet Ryan? What was the reason for your involvement?
He was requesting that I work on reunification counseling with him and his 2 children, Kinsey and Ryder.
How old are Kinsey and Ryder? If you know approximately.
I think they're like 10 and 13, maybe.
8 and 12.
8 and 12. I was close.
Okay, all right. And how long have you been working with that family? Since February?
Yes.
Okay. And you work with all 4 members of the family, Chelsea, Ryan, and the children?
Yes, I have. I've spoken to Chelsea on maybe 3 or 4 different occasions. I've worked mainly with Ryan and the kids.
And what concerns did you identify that needed to be worked on in your counseling?
Both of the kids are very adamant that they didn't want to go see their dad. They felt that he wasn't listening to them. They didn't like his girlfriend. They felt that she was involved and shouldn't be. They felt that she was mean to them. Their concerns were somewhat vague. They did say that Ryan had shook Ryder one time and that he pushed Kinsey in the back one time. CPS, I know, was involved, and those allegations were not substantiated.
Okay, thank you. Any concerns that you identified for either of the parents in the course of your work with the family?
Yes. I think that Ryan has been very, very cooperative. Ryan takes it very well when I have said to him things that sometimes Ryan can be very rigid, and he doesn't, he sometimes takes that attitude, I'm dad. And we've talked about this, and he's working on different ways to respond to the kids. He seems to be taking it very well. I have concerns with Chelsea in that in the beginning, I had strong concerns that there may be some coaching. The kids were, Kinsey especially, was making statements that seemed to have come from an adult more than a teenage girl. The kids are very loyal to their mother, and that's good. They should be. I mean, they should be loyal to both parents. And I think that sometimes the kids have gotten the impression that it's better if they know how their parents feel about each other. And it's easier for them to be negative towards their dad. They're getting, maybe it's unintentional, but some sort of positive reinforcement from their mom by feeling negative towards their dad. The parents both have a tremendous amount of anger towards each other. And they've not in the past been good at hiding that from the kids. I've spoken to both parents about this, and I do believe from the last visit that I had with Chelsea, and of course with Ryan, they both are accepting that and are trying maybe to tone that down some and to keep their anger more to themselves or each other rather than involve the kids at all.
Thank you. And do you recall approximately how many sessions have you had with Ryan and the children individually or together?
We've had about 16 sessions total with everybody. I think there was probably around 5 that were separate with either Ryan or the kids or Chelsea. So that's by 10 or 11 with them all together.
And in the course of your work with the family, did you find any valid concerns that would warrant the children not visiting with their father and following the court order?
No, I have not found anything.
Besides investigation, or I should say, besides speaking with the children and the parents, did you also contact anybody else upon their request?
I spoke to the children's therapist.
And was that helpful for you in your
Yes,
work?
yes,
Okay.
I think it was. I felt at the time when I spoke to her that she and I were headed in basically the same direction, that she also wanted to get the children to spend more time and be more comfortable with their father.
Is that common, or is that more out of the ordinary where the children are visiting just fine, the parents are following a joint physical custody order with a 4-4 schedule, and then all of a sudden, abruptly, the children just stop visiting with one parent? How common is it, and how often do you see it?
I see this sort of thing every day. I can't say for everything to be fine and then all of a sudden one day it stops is not as common with no warning. My understanding was that when the kids told me that they had the concerns of what they considered physical interactions with their dad happened in like October of last year, but they didn't stop seeing him until January of last year.
Of this year.
I'm sorry, this year. And they just all of a sudden one day sent him, per his report, sent him a text stating, "We're not coming. We don't feel safe with you."
So that in totality with what you know as the background of the family, with the CPS investigations not being substantiated, was that surprising to you that it in such abrupt manner stopped?
It's confusing, yes.
Thank you. And you did in fact prepare a report that you are going to testify to today. Does anything in that report need to be changed or supplemented today? Do you have any additional recommendations about makeup parenting time or otherwise?
You're referring to the update I sent on July 10th?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I did not include makeup time because currently right now, I want them to get back to a normal, get some consistency and stability and seeing both parents and get a routine going. Yes, I do believe makeup time needs to happen. I would like to see that happen after we get them stabilized here. They need to get back on a regular routine. There's like 90 some days of makeup time that the children deserve to have that time with their dad, regardless. And so that's a lot of time that I don't think they should lose out on. But I would like to see them get kind of back to normal here first.
Thank you. Your Honor, I would ask for the court to admit the JASWIAC update dated July 10, 2024, authored by Ms. Katz, that we provided to the court as Defendant's Exhibit A, please.
Ms. Reed, any response?
No objection to the report.
Court will admit Defendant's Exhibit A being the report of Ms. Katz dated July 10, 2024.
Thank you. Ms. Katz, in that report, you also mentioned that essentially waiting for the children to be ready or giving them more time is not going to be successful in this case, or something along those lines. Is that still your position?
We can't, yes, that is still my position. Drawing this out more makes it worse. When, you know how they always say face your fears? That's valid. When kids, especially for whatever reason, they feel fearful, they feel uncomfortable, they don't want to deal with a parent. The longer they stay apart, the bigger those issues become. That's why it's important to try to get them at least back together somewhat as soon as possible.
And you have in fact recommended some, albeit brief, but still parenting time visits for Mr. Jazwiak and his children during your therapy, correct?
Yes.
Do you recall how many of those visits occurred approximately?
They've had 3 or 4 meals together. He's had a couple with each child individually, and they've had a few together.
And again, that was your exact recommendation, correct?
Well,
utilize the time and then spend joint time together.
It was my recommendation. Yes, absolutely. Specifically, he went with Ryder, I believe, to get some sports cleats or something. And I hadn't known about that ahead of time. And that's fine. But that wasn't specifically my recommendation. But yeah, that's what I had intended. I wanted them to do those things.
Okay. And to your knowledge, those visits went fine. There were no concerns reported?
Even the kids said that they had a good time, that there was no problems during their visits with him when they would go have meals and things.
And then do the kids revert back to their stance of we don't want to go once they are back with mom? What happens?
As soon as, my understanding is, as soon as they go back with mom, they immediately then say, I don't want to do this. I don't want to see you. I don't want to talk to you again.
Is that concerning to you as a therapist?
Yes.
And why is it concerning?
Because it's so confusing. The kids are so confused. They're getting torn between their loyalties. Children should never have to choose between their parents. They should never have their loyalties pulled. Children are supposed to be able to love and be angry at both parents anytime.
Thank you. What specific recommendations have you given Mr. Jazwiak besides the ones that you've already spoken about? And has he followed those recommendations in your sessions?
Mainly the things that we've talked about, are the way he has in the past said things, the way he brought his girlfriend into the situation, and he has acknowledged and apologized to the kids, accepting that he did not handle it in the best way. He didn't know. It just was a bad decision by a parent that, those are the kind of things that we mainly talk about. I've tried to talk to him about understanding these are not personal things. It's not personal. It's kind of hard to sit there and have your daughter say to your face, I don't like you. You're a liar. You don't put my needs first, and not respond strongly. And he's doing very well in his responses to those things. That's what we work on mostly.
Thank you. And did you notice in the course of your interaction with Mr. Joswiak and the children that he does in fact put himself or his needs first in front of the children's needs?
I've not, no, I've not seen that happen. In fact, anything that I've seen him do is the only thing is if he has to work, he can't necessarily do like go to their sporting events or something.
But that situation, to your knowledge, has been constant since the divorce was final in 2021, correct?
That's my understanding. Yes.
So nothing changed there.
No.
Is he supportive otherwise of their participation in sports and events? Does he attend when he can, to your knowledge?
Yes, he attends all of the sessions that he can, to my knowledge. And he also, his girlfriend was attending with him at first. And it was very soon after it was very soon after I got involved that the girlfriend stopped attending. She has no contact with the kids whatsoever.
And was that upon your recommendation that was expressed to Ryan that happened?
I want to say it was my idea. I think so, yeah. It's certainly what I would have said.
But you support that given the
Yes.
concerns that the children have expressed?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So overall, Ryan has been receptive and cooperative?
Very much so.
In any of your interactions with him, do you notice vindictiveness or kind of initiating this proceeding to get back at mom, punish mom, anything like that?
No, I've not heard. I have other cases where I've had a parent, their whole complaint was the other parent did this, the other parent does that, the other parent on everything. With Ryan, it's never been that Chelsea did anything other than he does believe Chelsea's coaching the kids, and he has said he thinks that, but we've worked very hard on his not letting the kids know anymore that he thinks that. And otherwise, no, it's all been, I want my kids, I need to see my kids, I want to spend time with my kids, I would do this with my kids, that with my kids. Everything is focused around his kids.
Thank you. And upon the request of the parties, you and Dr. Haugen performed psychological evaluations of all 4 members of the family. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And I believe you, in fact, administered the testing and Dr. Haugen did the scoring. Is that correct?
No, I didn't do their testing, but I think that he did their testing, or maybe he had someone in his office doing it. I don't know.
Did you work closely with him on discussing the evaluations?
Absolutely. I've talked to him almost daily about the evaluations because they're my clients that he's doing the evals for. And so, yeah, I want to make sure that we all understand what's happening.
And we, in fact, did get those evaluations later last night. Thank you for that. Were you familiar with those evaluations enough to be able to testify to findings of those evaluations?
Yes.
And you, in fact, have reviewed them for accuracy with Dr. Haugen?
The only... There might be a couple typographical errors, but Dr. Haugen spelt Kinsey's name wrong. in every single eval, so I think they.
Yeah, I think he spelled it as Kinsley, but
He did.
what I guess I mean is, besides the typos, is substantive information in those correct to the best of your knowledge, and have you discussed that with Dr. Haugen?
Absolutely. And he's basically supported everything that I've been saying from the beginning.
And I also believe from speaking with you that prior to writing your July 10th report, you also have communicated with Dr. Haugen regarding recommendations that are to be put in that report. Is that correct?
I've spoke to Dr. Haugen almost daily with this case. Yes.
Thank you. So if we can just go through the evaluations briefly, I know the judge had an opportunity to read them. For Chelsea, any concerns or any observations that are worth noting, and any recommendations you would like to outline to the court?
Her lie scale on the child abuse potential is slightly elevated, which indicates probably a defensiveness. Her score was 9, and 7 or above is considered elevated. She's trying very hard to present herself well. That's not uncommon. We all try to present ourselves good. However, it kind of has gone into the extreme. That's why it's called a lie scale. When with that can lower her abuse score somewhat. Hers is not in the extremely high range, so that's not a major issue. Her unhappiness scale is elevated, suggesting she's very unhappy right now, feels unlucky, and views most of her problems as relational. Her Milan showed that she's somewhat controlling.
Ms. Katz, I'm going to interrupt you. What is Milan, so that we all understand? Is that the type of testing that's
I'm sorry. The Milan is it's Milan Clinical Multi-Axial Inventory, MCMI.
Okay, so that's the type of testing that's performed in psychological evaluations?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Please continue.
Her Milan showed that she's a little bit controlling, tends to be perfectionistic. She places high demands on other people. She expects perfection from other people and herself. She tries to hide angry and oppositional feelings, but they come out. She presents very well. She's worried, anxious, to the extent that I think some of that anxiety is being transmitted to the kids. In the report, it says vicariously. As far as recommendations, I agreed with Dr. Haugen that co-parenting counseling is indicated when the two of them, this is my part I'm adding, the two of them work through some of that anger towards each other that they have. They've been apart for a long time. the two of them are very different people. They respond differently. They both have trouble being vulnerable, admitting to, you know, their own fears and things, and they both become not combative, but sort of irrational with each other then. It's very, very important that they be vigilant to assure they support each other's parent relationships and keep their conflicts separate from their children. That's honestly the main thing, is to keep these conflicts separate from the kids. The kids are reading all of this. They're feeling all of this.
Thank you. Any other recommendations as to Ms. Jazwiak or findings?
Dr. Haugen said that programs such as Love and Logic may be helpful for both of them to agree on some sort of a parenting program.
Would you recommend parenting classes for either of the parents at this time?
I wouldn't necessarily say parenting classes. I would like them to kind of come up with a program that they can agree on. But parenting classes, to my knowledge, is more geared towards, you know, don't hit your kids.
Which in fact is one of the recommendations, correct?
Certainly
No
don't hit
physical
your
discipline?
kids. Yes, no physical discipline. And that's always a recommendation. No physical discipline when you have high conflict situations. It's always best to not physically discipline your child when everybody's anxiety is elevated.
Thank you. Anything else about Chelsea?
No, my concerns with Chelsea were that I'm not sure that it's intentional. I'm not sure that but I think the kids are getting some kind of a subconscious, maybe, reward for not being cooperative with their dad. And I think that comes from their mom and her anger.
Thank you. Your Honor, I would ask for the court to consider for admission Defendant's Exhibit B, which would be psychological evaluation dated July 16, 2024 for Chelsea Jazwiak. I believe the court has a copy, and plaintiff's counsel as well.
Okay, Ms. Reed, any response?
I have no objection.
Okay, court will admit defendant's exhibit
Thank you.
B being the report. I don't know where you got the, July 16th.
At the very top. Yep. Thank you. Ms. Katz, I'm going to bring you now to Ryan's psychological evaluation. Have you reviewed the findings of that?
Yes, I have.
Could you please state to the court again briefly what is worth noting from that evaluation?
Personally, what I've seen with Ryan, myself, when I first started talking to him, he did seem to be quite rigid, and kind of authoritarian, kind of that whole, I'm your dad, you'll do this and this and this because I'm your dad. And kids don't typically work with that. Well, since I've been talking to Ryan, I've seen a huge change in that. I've seen him admit to me and the kids that he accepts that was the wrong way to handle things. And he is sorry for handling it that way. And he's working on not doing those things. He could use some maybe work on his communication skills. He does tend to take things personally. I tried to explain to him that when Kinsey says these things to him, it's really not him. It's just her anger is coming out. It's important that, again, these parents have got to keep the kids out of their issues with each other.
Was he honest during psychological evaluation?
Yes, his testing all came out that he was, there was no elevations.
In fact, his life score is only 2, correct?
That is correct.
So he did not make any attempts to present himself in any more favorable light, to your knowledge?
No. And also on the Milan, he responded in a pretty open manner. He was pretty open and honest. He just said, this is how it is.
And is that a positive trait in a parent?
It's a positive trait in a human. Yes.
And any other specific recommendations for Ryan besides love and logic and no physical discipline, co-parenting counseling?
I think that it wouldn't hurt both of them to have a few sessions with an individual counselor to help both of them accept that they're divorced and neither of them has control of the other one's life. And they don't really want it. But they get caught up in it.
Thank you. Anything else you'd like to add for Ryan?
No.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would ask for the court to consider for admission Defendant's Exhibit C, psychological evaluation by Dr. Haugen dated July 16, 2024 of Ryan Joswiak.
Okay, let's read.
No objection.
Defendant's Exhibit C will be admitted.
Thank you. Ms. Katz, now we're going to move on to the children. Kinsey, anything that you think is worth noting for the court out of her psychological evaluation?
Kinsey is extremely anxious and wary. She's hyper vigilant, takes things very personally, and highly sensitive to perceived rejection by others, what she perceives as them rejecting her.
And what would that be in your interactions with Kinsey? What does she perceive as rejection?
Ryan will say something to her, such as, Kinsey, I don't understand what you mean. Tell me what I'm doing that's so upsetting to you. And she immediately says he's yelling at her and getting in her face.
But that's not what you observe as happening at that point, correct? He's not yelling at her and getting in her face. Okay.
Right. I have tried on occasion to say to her things like, Kinsey, is it possible that this was the case or this was the case? And she perceives that as I'm siding with him. I'm against her. So I've had to take a different approach with that.
Okay. All right, please continue. Thank you.
Kinsey's some of the things that she says, she gets overly. Her grandfather came to one of their games, their sporting games, I don't know what it was, and this was Ryan's father, and made the statement to her, I miss the old Kinsey. She took that really personally and felt he had no right to say that, and that he was in her face, and that he was which I did see a recording of him trying to talk to her. And then he was an annoying grandpa trying to talk to her, but not, it was pretty typical. Until he did make a very inappropriate statement to her as she walked away. She was right to be upset over that. He said, you're getting more and more like your mother every day. That was inappropriate, uncalled for, and to my understanding, Ryan did speak to him about it.
Thank you. So overly dramatic, it would be the way to put it, or overly sensitive is how you characterize it.
Yes, overly sensitive, a little bit histrionic, yes.
Any observations in that psychological regarding her bond or relationship with either parent?
She also is very protective of her mom. And this is where sometimes I think she doesn't, maybe she perceives it to be a bigger deal than what it is, because she is protective of her mom, and therefore that makes it her more angry at her dad. She's a very outspoken kid, and this is good. She's pretty good at stating her feelings. She does need to learn to use that in her favor, not so much against herself, because sometimes it comes across as just a bratty little girl, where she may be right in what she's saying, but the way she presents it hurts herself. But that'll come with some maturity, I think. I think she needs to continue with some conjoint therapy with Ryan, they can, she really misses, and she will admit that she misses, she felt she was a daddy's girl through the years. And she misses that, and she'll admit to missing that. And I think she wants things to go back, but she is very afraid to give in to what she perceives as rejection.
So help me understand what would be perceived rejection in a situation if the parents essentially go back to joint physical custody that they have exercised before. Is it her rejecting her mother or her father rejecting her? What do you refer to here?
She perceives her dad as rejecting her or not. She says her dad didn't put her needs above his own. She's vague on this. But she says her dad didn't put her needs in front of his own, and therefore she perceives that as a rejection. So rather than allow that to ever happen again, she's going to reject her dad.
But when you try to ask her and get more information on exactly what Ryan did to put his needs above hers or not meet her needs, she wouldn't give you any specific explanations.
She does not come up with anything specific.
Is that concerning to you that,
yes,
the child makes this vague statement and then can't actually tell you what it means?
Right. It's somewhat unusual for a child her age to state he puts the needs of others ahead of me and Ryder. Typically, what she would say, what a typical child at that age would say is, my dad doesn't like me anymore. He likes his girlfriend better. And she's not completely wrong in that feeling, but she refuses to look at anything different. When Ryan's girlfriend first started staying with him, Ryan didn't talk to the kids about it first. That was a huge mistake on his part. And the kids have just consistently used that.
But it's my understanding that the girlfriend has been around for a long period of time, and they have visited and continued visiting dad when girlfriend was around.
Yes, they did, and they got along. To my understanding is that they got along with the girlfriend fine.
And have you, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And now they say they don't like her. Okay. But my understanding is that there was never really a huge conflict.
And have you explored mom's living situation with the kids? Because she has a live-in girlfriend as well, correct?
Right. And the kids seem very well adjusted to that.
So it's only one-sided.
Yes.
Kinsey making such statement that, she feels that her dad is putting his needs above hers or not meeting her needs. This vague statement, could that signify coaching to you as a counselor?
It did definitely make me question it, yes.
And why is that?
Because it's not a typical way for a child to think. Kids don't typically, they don't verbalize that they're concerned about their needs being met. They verbalize that they're mad at somebody for doing something to them. Not that their needs aren't being met. And Kinsey did make a statement. There was one of Kinsey's games that Ryan didn't go to because he didn't know about it. Ryan told me that it was like a pickup game or something. I don't know. That something. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it wasn't on the regular schedule and nobody had told him about it. So he didn't know until the next day or whatever that she'd had a game. And he said to her, "I'm really sorry. I didn't know you had a game. I missed your game last night." And she said, "If you wouldn't have been chasing your girlfriend around, you would have known." That struck me as a very odd statement for a child that age to make, especially when the girlfriend was nowhere around. That was not I don't know. That struck me as a statement that she maybe didn't come up with on her own. She may have overheard it.
So if I understand you correctly, children think more concretely and more relevant to certain things as it relates to them, rather than just making overbroad, vague statements and not being able to explain what they mean. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes.
Thank you. And have you, in your interactions with Ryan or Kinsey or Ryder, overheard Ryan speak about their mother in a negative way in front of the children?
No, I've never heard him speak negatively. I have seen his face. I've seen him clench his jaws. I've seen him drop his head. I've seen some nonverbals regarding their mother, but he's never made any kind of statement.
And have you made recommendation as it relates to nonverbal communication that may signify something to the children, to Ryan?
Yes.
And has he been amenable to those recommendations?
You know, Ryan has seemed to be great on all the recommendations that I've made. Some of them, he agrees, yep, that's what I did. Other ones, he's like, oh, I didn't look at it that way. But you're right. He does seem to be very agreeable to anything that I've said.
Anything else you'd like to add about Kinsey as it relates to her psychological?
No.
And there's no recommendation that parenting time with dad stop for Kinsey, correct?
Oh, no. No, it's, I really have been pushing to get more parenting time going.
Thank you. Your Honor, I would ask for the court to consider defendant's proposed exhibit D, Kinsey Jazwiak psychological evaluation dated July 16, 2024 by Dr. Haugen as proposed exhibit for admission.
Ms. Reed?
No objection.
Court will admit defendant's exhibit D being the report of Kinsey dated July 16, 2024.
Thank you. And finally, let's talk about Ryder. Ryder is 9. I apologize, but I thought he was still 8. So tell us what Ryder is like and what are the findings in his psychological.
Ryder's young. Ryder kind of just goes along with what his sister says. He's very aligned and loyal to his mother and his sister. He looks at things in a more simplistic manner. Naturally, he's younger. When asked what he wants in Dr. Haugen's report, Ryder stated he wanted his dad to fix the problem and get his girlfriend out of the house. Just for the record, Ryan has told the kids repeatedly that she's not in the house any longer. She has her own house. But they absolutely do not believe that. If Ryder's testing showed that he's got an atypical amount of anxiety and nervousness, but again, I think that's his parents. He doesn't know what to say or think or do. He has to follow what Kinsey says.
Any recommendations as it relates to Ryder?
I know that he was working with the same therapist that Kinsey was working with, but I think it was my understanding that they were going to kind of back off on Ryder because he really wasn't talking about much. And that's very typical of kids, and it's difficult. But I think that I wish that they would keep periodically trying to get him to learn appropriate ways to express his anger and express his frustration and understand what it is that he's angry and frustrated about.
Any recommendation to stop visitation with Dad?
No.
And it's my understanding recommendation is to get back to normal as soon as possible with Dad, correct?
That is correct. Yes.
And are you continuing to work with this family?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Your Honor, I would ask for the court to consider proposed defendant's Exhibit E, Ryder Joswiak psychological evaluation dated July 16, 2024.
Okay, you agree?
No objection.
Court will admit the defendant's exhibit E.
Thank you. To wrap it up, Ms. Katz, what is your prognosis for this family overall, and what timeline for resumption of parenting time back to normal, as you said, would you suggest?
I think honestly, both parents love their children. That's obvious. And I think if they're both willing to honestly look at their children's needs and forget how they feel about each other, focus on what is best for their kids, I think there's a pretty good chance that they can resolve a lot of these issues. I don't think Ryan and Chelsea will ever be good friends, and that's okay. They don't have to be. All they have to do is basically communicate, drop off and pick up, appointments, those kind of things. They do have fairly decent communication through text. And I think it's working for them because text, you can get a lot of confusion and things mixed up, but they don't communicate enough to get things mixed up. They're just doing basics, I think, with the texting. So I don't think they need a parenting app or anything like that. I think they can work through text and be fine.
And as it relates to going forward with the parenting time, I know you outlined recommendation in your report. Could you please state to the court what do you see happening, how fast, and how much makeup parenting time would be appropriate and when?
The recommendation that I made was that for the next about 4 weeks, I think, I recommended having the kids spend 3 or 4 hours a day on the normal parenting time. They did 4 days on and 4 days off. They got a weird schedule. And that's okay. But on the 4 days that they're with their dad, would have been with their dad under the parenting schedule, I think they should be spending 3 or 4 hours a day with him. And then I think they need to do that for approximately 4 weeks. And then I would like to see them start throwing in a couple of overnights each time. Do that for about 4 weeks and then go back to 4 on, 4 off. Once they get to 4 on, 4 off, and they can maintain that for a couple more weeks, then I think it's important to start adding at least a day or something every 4-week period or every 4-day period until makeup time is complete.
And you said 1 day, I think in our conversations prior to the hearing, you mentioned 2 days. So essentially Ryan would have his 4 days plus 2, and then we would go to Chelsea's 4 days. Are you saying it should be 1?
Well, no.
Right now, I mean, with 92 overnights.
Yeah, we really
we're looking at a year.
Yes.
For him to get his time back.
You really need to go with 2 days, yeah.
Okay, so that will bring us to about 46 weeks or so when he gets that 92 overnights back.
Right.
Any other recommendations as to parenting time?
Well, I believe that like this year for spring break, that was supposed to be Ryan's holiday. I think Ryan should get next year's spring break.
And then the following year as well, because
yes. As makeup, yes.
Anything else? I think he also missed another 2 holidays, Easter and 4th of July. So same situation.
Yes.
Thank you.
Whatever holidays he did miss.
I'm sorry?
Whatever holidays he missed.
Okay. Any other recommendations, Ms. Katz?
No.
Thank you very much. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Before you go, Ms. Reed, Ms. Katz, just to clarify, you originally said with regard to the makeup, when they do the 4 off, 4 on, that you would add a day, and then based upon Ms. Henderson's question, I got confused. Were you saying to add 2 days or just 1 day? I don't know.
I think we need to add 2 days. When I spoke to Ms. Henderson about it in the first place, I did say 2 days. And I think that with 90 days, that's a lot of time. That's 3 months. You know, I do think we need to add 2 days on too.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Ms. Reed?
Good morning, Ms. Katz.
Morning.
In addition to some of the meals that the kids have been having with Ryan, have they been having weekly phone calls?
Yes.
And are those phone calls going well?
Not particularly. No.
What's happening with the phone calls?
The same thing when they see him here. They and I have encouraged them now to stop discussing anything important during phone calls or times together. Save all that for when they're in the office here. Just be together and have a good time. Chelsea did express to me recently that she felt the phone calls were getting a little bit less a little bit better. She stated they're not hostile like they used to be.
Okay. And when you said that you've instructed them not to discuss anything important, what do you mean by important?
Ryan has a strong tendency to keep saying, why won't you come see me? Why don't you want to see me? I love you. I want you to come see me. When he does that, that makes the kids anxious. Say it once, let them know, and then drop it.
Okay. And how were the phone calls before this new rule was implemented? How were they hostile?
Kinsey is very sensitive. She gets very upset thinking that he's yelling at her. He gets upset because she says he's yelling and he says he's not. And it just becomes very counterproductive.
And how often was that occurring? Is that once a week or twice a week?
Honestly, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it was once or twice a week.
Okay. And could the hostility of these phone calls before they don't talk about it rule was implemented, could that kind of affect the kids' ability or wanting to go to the lunches that were planned with their dad?
Yes. Yes, that could have affected it.
Okay. Was the issue of the allegation of Ryder being shaken addressed during counseling between Ryan and the children?
It's been brought up on different occasions. Ryan has said he doesn't. They've not really mentioned much about the shaking. They've not mentioned much about that at all, but it has come up, and Ryan has stated that he doesn't really understand what they're talking about, that he feels he didn't do that. And then the kids just say, you did.
Is that still something that's upsetting the children?
I think it seems to be, yes.
Are there any recommendations trying to resolve that issue? That seems like a point of conflict for these two.
I have tried to talk to Ryan that regardless whether he did or he didn't, it's the kid's reality right now. And you got to go to them, to their level, and you got to say, I'm sorry. I didn't intend to do that, but I'm sorry that it looks that way, and I hope you know I'm trying not to do those things anymore. Those kind of things. To validate what they're saying, because it is their reality. If they believe that, then you have to run with that's what happened.
And has he done that in counseling with the children?
He tries to, yes.
And are the children receptive of that?
No.
Is it something that needs to be worked on in individual counseling?
Yes. And I spoke to Kelsey's therapist about that. And she sort of understood, I think, what I was saying. Both of them need to work on it a little bit individually, I think.
Okay. Have the children expressed any safety concerns with you and Ryan's home?
Yes. Safety issues with
Ryan.
With Ryan, yeah. Yes. Kelsey refuses to ride in the car with him because one time he stopped, he hit the brakes hard and it scared them. And he also made her sit in the front seat because there were other kids in the back seat. And she wasn't maybe old enough to be in the front seat or something.
And how was that addressed between Ryan and the kids in counseling?
They've brought it up and just flat refused to ride with him now.
Has Chelsea been receptive and compliant and cooperative with your recommendations?
I feel that she, I sometimes, I think she is becoming more cooperative. At first, I don't think she was cooperative at first, and I think that she didn't want to be involved with things at first. She said she didn't want to. It was between Ryan and the kids, and she didn't want anything to do with it. And I think that the last time that I spoke to her, she seemed to be much more receptive to what I was saying. And I tried to point out to her that maybe it's not even conscious. Maybe it's subconscious, or maybe it's the kids are overhearing things. I'm not sure what it is, but Chelsea's really sending the message to the kids that their dad's a bad person.
How is she doing that?
When she says that she tells them to go say hello to their dad at the games. I think it's the manner in which she's doing that. I think it's that she's doing that because she feels she's supposed to. And the kids know that.
Has she discussed with you the ways she's trying to encourage the kids to go to Ryan for parenting time?
She said she's tried to.
Did she explain how?
No, just that she's really trying to tell them to go.
Have you offered recommendations to Chelsea about how she can try and be more encouraging for the kids to go to parenting time?
Probably not as much as I have been with Ryan.
Okay. You had indicated that the kids are getting some form of positive reinforcement. Are they telling you that, or were you getting some positive reinforcement or feedback from?
Kids don't do anything. Kids, we all do things for a reason. And so if they weren't getting some sort of positive reinforcement, they wouldn't be as verbal as they are, like during the phone calls and stuff. Everything we do, there's a reason why we do it. And so they know exactly how their mom feels. And therefore, maybe it's subconscious, but somehow or another, Chelsea is giving the impression that she really doesn't want them to like Ryan. Kinsey told me that there was some confusion over Ryder's birthday. And Ryan had explained what happened, his side, and then Kinsey stated that Ryan had called or texted her mother and yelled at her mother, got in her face or whatever about Ryder's birthday. And I said, how do you know that? She said her mom was crying and real upset and needed somebody to talk to, so she told her about it. Now, when I talked to Chelsea about this, she denied it and said that didn't happen. I don't know whose interpretation was wrong, but somebody interpreted all that incorrectly.
Have you had an opportunity to have one-on-one sessions with the kids with Chelsea there?
With Chelsea in the room?
Yes.
No, I don't think I've ever met with the kids with Chelsea.
So you haven't observed the way Chelsea talks and the kids talk to Chelsea?
No, I have not.
Okay. Poor Ryder, is he kind of a shy kid?
Yes, Ryder's very shy.
And you had
just
said that he kind of follows along with whatever Kenzie does?
Absolutely.
Was there ever a one-on-one session with Ryder and Ryan and yourself?
No, I don't believe there was one with Ryder and Ryan. I don't think there was. Honestly, I can't remember for sure. I know that I had a session with Kinsey and Ryan when Ryder couldn't come.
Is there a reason why, if we're saying that Ryder's just saying whatever Kenzie's saying, why we did have that one-on-one session?
No, there is not a specific reason.
Okay.
And you're right, I probably never, I should, right now I see no reason not to do that. I should have done that.
For makeup parenting time, you said it's important for the children to be able to get that time with their father. Is that correct?
Yes.
And are you aware that the parenting time schedule is based upon Ryan's work schedule?
Yes.
So if Ryan is having additional makeup parenting time, are there concerns that it would conflict with his work schedule and that he wouldn't be actually having that parenting time and the children would be somewhere else at that time?
Well, all parents have to work. I mean, part of the time that was Ryan's parenting time, but they were with their mother. I mean, they were in school or they were whatever. It's not, parents can't take 24/7 to spend with their children. Everybody has to work and go on and do things. So because while he's at work with Ryan's parents, they'll still see him before work, after work, whatever.
And that's correct, but is there a concern that because Kenzie's perceiving rejection very severely at the moment, so if she's required to go with Ryan for additional time and he is not there, is there any concern that it's going to be perceived by Kenzie that it's both a rejection from her mom and her dad?
And I think that both parents have to be very, very clear with Kenzie on that. That moms and dads have to work. Moms and dads have things they have to do. And I think it needs to be made clear to her that it's not a rejection. It's a
Is there a concern that it might be perceived that even though it's makeup parenting time and what we're trying to do is give dad additional time, that it might be perceived as a punishment for Kenzie for not going to parenting time?
Those are all things that need to be worked with. Absolutely. Her therapist needs to be helping her with that too, along with each one of us.
So could trying to implement makeup parenting time make what's going on worse?
No, I don't see it making anything worse. I don't see it. No.
How would you suggest that we work in counseling just so we can make everyone on the same page of how to explain to the kids what makeup parenting time is without outright saying this is makeup parenting time or causing some of these issues that we're concerned about?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
How can the parents and the counselors address trying to implement your recommended makeup parenting time without having this feeling of rejection or punishment?
I think that it would really be nice if both parents could be in the same room with the kids and a therapist. when that's explained. I think that would be really nice. I think it's important that the kids see the parents are starting to work together. And I think that it just needs to be handled very carefully and just as everything else is. And like I say, I think it'd be great if both parents could be in the same room.
And who would be handling that meeting? Would that be you or the children's therapist?
You know, I would gladly do it. I don't know. Kinsey kind of runs hot and cold with me. Like I said, if I encourage her to look at things in a different way, she thinks that I'm siding against her. And so if her therapist if she'd be more comfortable with her therapist doing it, I guess that would be fine.
And is there a specific reason why you changed your recommendation from 1 extra day to 2?
No, I had said 2 originally, and there's so many days. You know, if you do 1 extra day a week, that's 90 weeks.
Do you think it would be beneficial to ease into, if makeup parenting time is ordered, would it be beneficial to ease into makeup parenting time as well as going into regular parenting time like you recommended? Instead of just adding on immediately 2 days?
Yeah, it's okay to ease into it, sure. I have hopes that by the time we've worked into regular parenting time, that everybody's comfortable enough we can just throw in a couple of extra days there. You know?
And do you know if Ryan is attending all of the children's games or just some of them, like sports games?
I know he attends all of them, that he's not working.
Okay. Were you aware that he sent a text message to the children telling them that he was going on vacation, would be missing their days?
Yes, yes. He did tell me he was going on vacation and would miss a game.
And did that upset the children?
I think maybe a little bit, but he's allowed to go on vacation. It wasn't his parenting time.
Do we know what his parenting time is right now?
He keeps track of it.
Okay. So he can go on vacation and miss games, but when he's invited to games and if he has work, that's okay.
Yes. Yes, that's a different situation. We all have to work.
Has that been explained to the children?
Has it been explained to the
Yes.
children? I'm probably not.
Okay. Are there concerns that the children are perceiving when Ryan goes on vacation versus going to the games or goes taking time off to go on vacation off of work and missing games, that he's choosing to go on vacation over them?
I'm sorry, but I don't see that in that way. I don't know why the kids necessarily would see that. I would have never thought that. So I don't know But we can certainly set the kids down and explain that to them.
Are you aware of an issue that happened over Father's Day?
Yes, I am.
And did the children go to Ryan's for Father's Day?
No, they did not.
Are you aware that Ryder sent a message to Ryan's indicating that he was willing to go to Father's Day breakfast?
My understanding was that it was later at night on Saturday night, the day before Father's Day, after Ryder and Kinsey had said on Friday and Saturday that they were not going to go to his house for Father's Day. So they told him on Friday and Saturday they weren't going to go. Saturday night, I believe it was around 10 o'clock, Ryder texted his dad and said he wanted to go. And Ryan explained that he had invited his family and Megan to come over for breakfast. And Ryder said he would not come over if Megan was there. And Ryan asked him if he wanted to do lunch or dinner. Ryder said no, that Megan had to not be there and he could only do it in the morning.
Is that kind of counterproductive in that we're trying to encourage the kiddos to go to parenting time? And if Chelsea's encouraging the kiddos to go to parenting time after they do an initial no, and then she gets Ryder to agree to go, and then we don't have any sort of accommodations to allow Ryder to go to breakfast.
Your Honor, I'm going to object as to the form of the question. There was no testimony that Chelsea encouraged Ryder to go at that point.
Sustained.
I can just ask it this way: the counterproductive of when Ryder's saying, I want to come to have parenting time with you, and then Ryan's not being accommodating for that breakfast.
Ryan offered him to come, but he did not offer to change his plans with Megan. He did not agree to tell Megan she couldn't come. But he had been told they weren't going to come. They've not come in the past. He had no reason to know that at 10 o'clock the night before, Ryder would change his mind.
And Ryder's 9, right?
Right, and that should be explained to Ryder, that people make plans. You can't just change your mind and expect people to sit and wait for you to decide yes or no.
He's also 9, and kids change their mind quite frequently, right?
They do, and that's how they learn.
I have no further questions.
Senator, any redirect?
Very briefly, Your Honor, thank you. Ms. Katz, as to the phone calls, are you aware that it takes Ryan approximately 10 to 20 times of actually calling before children pick up and engage in conversations with him?
Yes, I'm sure he's told me that.
As it relates to the Father's Day incident, I just want to clarify, it's not to be viewed as a negative that Ryan doesn't drop the plans he's made with his family literally about 8 hours before those plans were to occur in order to accommodate a very late request from Ryder. Is that your position?
Yes.
And it's also my understanding that at that point, Ryder requested that everybody be uninvited and only he and Kinsey and Ryan have that breakfast at Ryan's house. Is that your understanding?
My understanding was that it was just about Megan, but I don't know. I can't say for sure. I don't remember.
Do you agree that Ryan handled the situation well by offering alternatives to Ryder?
Definitely.
So you would not have recommended he do anything differently at that point?
No.
Thank you. And regarding the vacation is for most people once a year type thing, or maybe twice a year, whereas games happen throughout the whole year. So is it unreasonable for the children to expect that their father would take time off work for every single game that they have if it falls on the day that he works?
It's unreasonable in any job that I have ever held to be allowed to take time off to go to my child's sporting event. They don't, our jobs don't typically let you do that.
And in terms of letting the children know about vacation plans, do you think Ryan did the right thing by being open and honest and explaining why he would not be there rather than coming up with some other excuse?
Yeah, the fact that he said he was going on vacation.
And it's okay for him to have vacation on the time that was not scheduled to be his parenting time without the children. Is that correct?
You know, honestly, it's okay for a parent to take vacation, even if it would have been on his parenting time. Normally, parents could contact each other and say, hey, I've got this opportunity to do this. Could we switch weeks? Could we do something? It's very normal for parents to take a vacation without their children.
Thank you. I don't have any further questions. Thank you, Ms. Katz.
Ms. Reed, any recross?
Just briefly. Ms. Katz, so when Ryan informed the kids he was going on vacation, it was through a text message. And he said, I've asked you guys to do things with me and you guys don't seem to want to do anything with me, so I'm going out of town. Was that an appropriate response to the kids?
No. No, he shouldn't have said it that way.
Was there a better way to explain that?
Sure.
And are we still need to work on a communication with the children and Ryan?
Well, sure. Yes, we definitely need to work on it.
No further questions.
Okay. Ms. Katz, I think that concludes your testimony. Thank you. You have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much, Ms. Katz.
Sure, guys. Thank you. See you.
Henderson, what were you looking at as far as
We have
witnesses?
one more witness in the waiting room and then my client, and
Okay.
that's it.
We'll take that witness, then I want to break and speak to the attorneys.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Who's the next witness?
Ryan Holder. He's coming in.
Mr. Holder, we're going to take some testimony from you, so we'll need to have you raise your right hand, be sworn in, then we'll proceed.
Okay,
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you are about to give shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Go ahead, Ms. Henderson.
Thank you. Mr. Holder, good morning. I apologize for your wait. Could you please state your full name and spell your last name for the record?
Yes, John Holder, Holder.
How are you related to the parties in this case?
Chelsea Joseph is my daughter.
And did Ryan approach you about testifying today?
No, I had spoke to him, I don't know when it was, March or April. He kind of explained what was going on, and I told him he may have to, that Chelsea wouldn't return the kids and that he may have to file something with the court, a complaint, because she was violating the court order. And I told him, I said, if it goes to trial, I would be willing to testify on how I've seen what's been going on, how it's impacted the kids.
And you have, in fact, some observations that you would like to share with the court today, correct?
Yes.
Would you lie for Ryan or for Chelsea today?
No, I would not.
And in fact, it's pretty difficult for you to be here today. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's very difficult. I love my daughter so much, but what she's doing to these grandkids is wrong. She has turned them against me. She has turned them against Ryan,
Objection, lack of foundation.
and it's wrong.
Yeah. It's his opinion. We'll let him testify to it. I'm not going to make an assessment based upon her turning kids against him. That's not an issue in this case.
Thank you. Mr. Holder, are you close to your grandchildren, Ryder and Kinsey?
I was very close with them up until a few years ago. I love them so much. They're my only grandkids. We used to have sleepovers. We would bake together. I'd make them Mickey Mouse pancakes in the morning. About 2 years ago, Chelsea forbid me from speaking to Ryan and his parents. I would say hi to them at sporting events. We would talk about the grandkids. And I told Chelsea, I said, nobody tells me who I can speak to and who I can't. And ever since then, I haven't been able to see the kids, barely at all. The only time I really see them is at sporting events, and they don't even speak to me at sporting events. Chelsea has brought them over the last 2 Christmases. It's usually a week or 2 after Christmas. She pulls in the driveway, drops them off, and says, I will leave them for 2 hours. And she comes right back in 2 hours, and we have our Christmas, and then I take them back out to the car and load all them and all their stuff back up, and that's it. This year, Chelsea did let me see them for their birthdays. Not on their birthday. It was a couple weeks.
I'm going to object as to relevance of why we are here for the denial of parenting time.
Okay, well, Ms. Henderson, if we could focus on these parties
Absolutely.
and not his relationship.
Thank you, Mr. Holder.
Okay.
So how often do you see the children now? And with which parent's permission or blessing, so to speak?
Well, the only time I see them now is at a sporting event.
Who notifies you of the sporting events?
Ryan primarily. Chelsea has given me schedules in the past. However, it's difficult. I recently asked, in fact, 2 weeks ago, I asked for a new schedule for, can't remember if it's Kinsey or Ryder, and she said you can get it from Ryan. I think she found out I was going to testify today, so I know what the price is going to be paid now for my appearance.
Objection, lack of personal knowledge.
Sustained. Go ahead.
And when did the things change in relation to this abrupt refusal of the children to go with their father from your observation? What have you personally witnessed?
Well, I think the cause of this was back in December. Chelsea
December
sent
2023?
Yes.
Okay.
Around Christmas time. Might have even been Christmas Eve. Chelsea sent me a text and sent me a picture of Ryan with his girlfriend and her 2 boys standing on a beach and asked me where he was at. And I didn't know where he was at. He doesn't tell me that kind of stuff. And she said, Ryan missed a Christmas concert of Kinsey's, and that was unacceptable. And I said, well, Ryan's, an adult. He can make his own decision. That's not really any of my business. Ever since then, that's when this whole refusing to take the kids back to Ryan began. And I don't know factually when that started. I just kind of noticed at sporting events, Chelsea seemed to always have them. And then finally, I think it was February or March, I asked Ryan, I said, what's going on with the kids? And he said, Chelsea won't give them back to me. They won't come back. And that's when I told him, I said, he made her to court. I think it's directly related to the thing he put on Facebook.
Objection, lack of personal knowledge.
Yeah.
Sustained. We won't speculate. Sir, just testify as to what you observed and what you know, not what you think.
Yep.
And what specific conduct or actions did you observe from your daughter that made you concerned about her potential influence or her refusal to give the children back, as you're saying?
Well, she had stopped talking to me, obviously, and the kids stopped talking to me. Chelsea has taken the position that it is my responsibility to approach the kids and talk to them as well as her. She does not need to speak to me, and the kids do not need to speak to me at sporting events. Ryan, on the other hand, when we were at a sporting event last year, we were at a baseball game and Ryan had the kids. Kinsey came over to me, to my wife and I. We were sitting in lawn chairs, different area of the field, and Kinsey was crying. And I said, Kinsey, what's wrong? And she was crying and said, I don't want my mom to see me talking to you.
Objection, hearsay.
Ms.
That's what Kinsey told
Hold
me.
hold on, sir.
Mr. Holder, I'm just going to direct you to only say things you have personally observed, not something somebody else told you.
Or we'll sustain the.
Okay?
I observed my granddaughter crying because she was talking to me.
Okay, thank you. Did you ever observe similar behavior from the children recently when Ryan brought them to those games?
I have not seen Ryan bring them to the games this year, to any games.
Okay. Was Ryan there at the games that he did not bring the children to that you attended?
Yes, he's been at some of the games. Please understand, I don't make it to all the games. I'm in the process of building a new house up in northern Michigan. And on the weekends, I go up there and work on it. So I have not made all their sporting events. Previously, I used to attend everything, but it's just more difficult with this project going on. So I don't know what games Ryan attends and which ones he doesn't.
Well, I only asked about the ones that you have attended that you've seen.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
And as it relates to your daughter, has she reached out to you recently asking how she can call the police on Ryan?
Yes, that was, I think that was back in December when
Okay, and what happened?
I don't know. She said, she mentioned something about Ryan had drank a beer and drove the kids around, and the kids told him about it. And I don't know that she called the police. I thought she called Child Protective Services or something to that effect. I don't know what the outcome of that was.
Okay, all right, thank you. And did you notice any change in your grandchildren's behaviors since, say, January of 2024 from previously? What changed, if you notice anything?
Well, I've noticed they don't speak to their father at sporting events. I watch and they don't go up and talk to their dad. He will go up and talk to them. But it's an awkward situation. The entire process is awkward for everybody, and it doesn't have to be.
Is there anything else you would like to add in terms of your observations relevant to this refusal to go visit with the father?
I think it's wrong. I think those kids need to be with their father for the proper amount of time that he was awarded in their settlement agreement, and the friend of the court agreement, whatever. And I don't know which one it was, but that should be followed. I have to tell you, I think this has been going on way too long. I think she needs to be ordered to take the kids back, and they're not going to like it at first because I know what I've observed. I don't think that they like their father right now, and I don't know why. I think it's strictly manipulation by my daughter.
Objection.
Thank you. I don't have any further questions, Your Honor.
Let's read anything.
Mr. Holder, do you have a relationship with your daughter?
Not much of one, no. It's basically a text here and there.
Did you disapprove of her being divorced from Ryan?
I didn't disapprove of it. I didn't want to see a divorce take place. I don't think anybody does, but when you look at the data, over half the marriages end in divorce, so it didn't surprise me.
Have you made derogatory comments to your daughter regarding her same-sex relationship?
Objection,
Right.
Your Honor, relevance.
What's the relevance?
Goes to the relationship and the basis for this person's testimony.
Well,
And potential bias.
You had me limit Miss Henderson, so I'm going to limit you as well.
Okay. Mr. Holder, did you send a text message to Ryan directing him to go for full custody of the children?
To Ryan? I don't believe so.
How much contact do you have with your grandchildren since January? Is it just sporting games?
Yes, I see them at sporting games. Again, I stated that I was allowed to take each one of them for their birthdays this year, March and April. She just dropped, Kinsey off, and then I went and picked Ryder up, not together, just separately, and took them shopping, bought them birthday presents, and then we came back and had lunch. Kinsey, we went out to lunch. Ryder, we had lunch at home.
So you have not had an opportunity to observe Chelsea with the children?
No.
You have not observed Chelsea's conversations with the children?
No.
No further questions.
Okay, thank you. Understanding everything else, Ms. Anderson.
I'm done. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr.
Mr.
Holder.
Holder, thank you for your testimony. You're free to go. Have a good day.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
We take a recess, and I'd like to speak to the attorneys in chamber.
And I'm going to have my calendar pulled up here. So it's my understanding that the parties agree that starting today, July 18th, and for the next 10 days until July 27, 2024, Mr. Joswiak will have daily contact with the children for a period of 4 hours each day. At 2 o'clock today, the parties will have a joint session with Ms. Katz. That will include the minor children. Ms. Katz will direct transportation to and from parenting times and make sure all the parties are on the same page. Then July 31st would be the first 4-day period of time that my client will have with the children. And within that 4-day period of time, he will have 2 days of 4-hour visits with the kids and then 2 overnight visits. And after that, Ms. Joswiak will have her 4 days. This will continue for a period of 4 weeks, which takes us to August 28th, at which point the parties will go to 5-3 rotation, where Mr. Joswiak will have 5 overnights with the children and Ms. Joswiak will have 3 overnights with the children. And both parties will keep track of that extra overnight that will essentially allow Mr. Joswiak to gradually make up his 92 overnights of parenting time that was missed. He will also get extra time at winter break. We estimate that to be at least 3 overnights, subject to the other parties' holidays. He will also get the entire spring break next year. The parties generally followed the 4-4 rotation during spring break, but this will allow him to get additional 5 to 6 overnights. He will also get 4th of July holiday and Easter holiday next year to make up for the ones that were missed this year. The parties will continue counseling with Meredessa Katz and follow any recommendations that she has, including possibly individual counseling for each of them. And the children will continue counseling with their individual counselor, Liz Point. Thank you.
What was the name?
Point, Pointe.
Or another counselor if the parties agree to change that. The children's school schedule and extracurricular activity schedule shall be taken into account to accommodate their attendance at both parents' homes. I think that is it.
Okay.
Did I miss anything, Ryan? Your Honor, did I miss anything from what we talked about?
I don't believe so. Ms. Henderson, do you want to inquire of your client?
Sure. Ryan, did you hear the agreement that I just put on the record?
Yes.
And is that the agreement we reached through negotiations after the hearing?
Yes.
Are you agreeing to be bound by this?
Yes.
Do you understand that if we went forward with a hearing, the result could have been better, worse, or somewhat similar?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Agreed if you require your client.
Chelsea, did you hear the agreement that Ms. Henderson just placed on the record?
Yes.
Is that an accurate representation of the agreement?
Yes.
Have you had an opportunity to talk to me about this agreement?
Yes.
You're agreeing to be bound by that agreement today?
Yes.
And you understand if we had we proceeded with the hearing, it could have been more favorable, less favorable, or substantially similar to your agreement?
Yes.
Do you have any other questions for me? Do you have any questions for Judge? Please, this court.
Okay, thank you. I want to commend all of you for a resolution in this particular matter. Obviously, the court takes these matters very seriously, and obviously parenting time is extremely important, not for the two of you as much. I'll tell you quite frankly, when the parents come in and they're arguing about it, I don't care about what the parents want. I care about what the children want, what the impact of the children is. I will tell you, and only because we've heard what Ms. Katz had stated previously, and give you some statistics. Obviously, if the children are picking up on the contention that the two of you have, and this is the perfect age for doing that, the statistics show that if in fact there is an adversarial relationship between the two of you, by the time your children reach adult age, they are basically a greater than almost 70% chance that they will get into a relationship which will end in divorce. There is a greater than 50% chance that they will engage in addictive behavior that will present, they'll get into drugs, they'll get into all that type of abusive conduct, etc. And there's also a greater than 50% chance that they will engage in criminal activity. So if you want your children to end up having a life like that when they're adults, continue to make it difficult for them at this age, and basically demonstrate to them that you have an adversarial relationship, and the statistics will show that they're going to end up like that. And so right now you need to nip that in the bud. I will tell you, as I told the attorneys, I take parenting time extremely seriously. And I just had in the last month and a half, I've had 2 cases where a parent did not provide for parenting time, and they went to jail and they were able to think about it. One of them, unfortunately, by the time they went from that table to that door, they thought about it and they decided that they would provide for parenting time. The other one, the parent had to wait about a few hours before they realized they didn't like it in jail, and they were going to remain in jail until they provided for parenting time. So we don't want that to happen. I'm sure you don't want that to happen, and that's not going to benefit anybody. And so it's inherent upon both of you to make sure that the children want to go on parenting time and that they do go on parenting time, because again, if this isn't corrected based upon what we've heard and all of that, there is a potential of jail time. So hopefully that doesn't happen. So we'll let you go, Ms. Henderson. I assume you're going to prepare the order?
I will, yes. I was trying to take notes as we were talking,
Okay.
so hopefully I got
I do wish you all the best. Hope that this resolves it and we don't have to see you back. And you're free to go. Have a good day. And I know that you have to get going because you have to get to Miss Katz's office.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That just seems like the epitome of vindictiveness. When your father says hello to your ex and his parents at a game, a kid's game, and you decide right then and there to cut your father off from his own grandchildren, that is the epitome of vindictive. And you can tell that she is that kind of person. She's manipulative. She called, CPS on Dad for no reason at all. Just because she wanted to get back at him for something. Something he said, something he did, who knows. But hopefully when he gets back into a relationship with his children, he will let Grandpa see them. he'll still probably have a good relationship with Grandpa, which that can be nothing but good. And I have a feeling when Miss Reed was called into chambers, the judge laid down the law right there. He said, he's going to see these children, or she's going behind the gray door right now. And, you know, her whole attitude changed when they came back in. I think she thought she was in the right until they came back in from chambers. And then she realized she's not. And she could actually go back behind that gray door. She didn't think that was a possibility. Anyway, thank you guys so very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.